The election saga in the state of Michigan unfortunately continues, and of course it involves the Republican members of the Wayne County Board of Canvassers who initially refused to certify the election results, then later decided to vote unanimously to certify the election results, indicating that the county did vote for Joe Biden over Donald Trump. And then now they're saying that they would like to rescind their votes to certify the election results. Now, let me be clear in stating that they don't have the ability to do it at this point. Now it's up to the Michigan State Board of Canvassers, so the State Board of Canvassers, in order to certify the election results. But at this point, what the Wayne County Board has done in certifying is done. They can't go back, they can't rescind it. It's now up to the state to make the decision as to whether they're gonna certify or not. But it appears that Donald Trump is going to try to influence state lawmakers into intervening. And I'll give you those details. But first, let's talk a little bit about why these Republican members of the Wayne County Board of Canvassers changed their minds and wanted to rescind the certification. So the board's GOP chairwoman, Monica Palmer, and board member William Hartmann signed affidavits stating that they only voted for the certification because other members promised a full audit of the county's votes. Palmer's affidavit stated that the Wayne County election had serious process flaws which deserve investigation. I continue to ask for information to assure Wayne County voters that these elections were conducted fairly and accurately. So the argument here is, well, the Democratic members of the board promised us that there would be a full audit. The Democratic members of the board are arguing, look, first off, no one has filed a formal request for an audit yet. So relax. And secondly, we were all under the understanding that this was a non-binding part of the negotiation. And look, the important thing to take away from this is that there's no evidence of fraud. There's no evidence of any wrongdoing in Wayne County. And more importantly, the Republican members of the board specifically wanted to single out Detroit, which overwhelmingly voted for Joe Biden and is also predominantly African-American part of the county, right? When they found some issues with other parts of the county, all of a sudden they're okay. They want to certify those certain neighborhoods in the county. But when it comes to Detroit, they wanted to essentially prevent the certification of the votes in that area. Of course, that led to many people accusing them of targeting the area due to racist reasons, due to their loyalties to Donald Trump. And it's turned into a giant nightmare, a giant mess. Before I get to more details, Cenk, jump in.
Yeah, so let me be super clear on the facts of why this issue is preposterous. So they asked the Republicans who are now trying to rescind their certification, which by the way, again, is not a thing. That's just legally not possible. But all they're trying to do is create total and utter chaos for their actual goal, which I'll get to in a second. So they say, okay, but you want to certify the areas that are 95% white and Republican, even though they had more of the so-called errors you're worried about than Detroit. And you want to not certify Detroit, which is 80% black, even though it had less errors, less theoretical errors, according to what you're saying. Yes, the white areas should be certified, the black areas should not be certified, even though the white Republican areas had more errors. Well, how do you explain that other than I'm a racist fascist who'd like to steal this election and I don't give a damn about the law? And there's no other explanation. These people are absolutely despicable. Now, the second part of it is, they say, well, there might, that's why we're asking for an audit, where there might have been clerical errors in 100 or a couple hundred votes. Oh, okay, wow, okay, well that might really affect the election in Michigan. You know how much Biden won Michigan by? 157,000 votes, 157,000 votes, not 100 or 200 votes. So let's say they were right, and they said, hey, you know what? Let's leave poor white Republican voters alone. Let them make all the errors they like, and don't audit them. Certify right away, right? But these African American Democratic voters, okay? Well, we found that, let's make up a number, 112 clerical errors, which is not even their fault, right? So we should invalidate 157,000 vote lead. That's the actual argument that they are making. So now, why? Why in the world are we even having this insane conversation? Well, because of two main lunatics, obviously Trump and Giuliani, and they will not relent. But that's obvious. The fact that they've lost their minds is super obvious. The emperor has no clothes. Hey, everybody, media, Democrats, Republicans are hopeless as a party. But he has no mind. He has no mind. They're lunatics. But that's not the main reason why. I don't want it to be like, oh, it's so funny. It's so funny. They're trying to steal an election. That's hilarious. It's not hilarious because the real motivation is to go to Michigan and Pennsylvania, and he needs to overturn 3 democratically held elections. So he needs to steal 3 states with no evidence, none. You go to their legislators and go, just give me a different set of electors.
Right.
And we create a constitutional mess. And then the Republicans just declare me the winner and we steal the election and we end democracy and we end America.
So that is definitely the strategy they're turning to because they had absolutely no success by going to the courts. Giuliani made an absolute fool out of himself. Trump's campaign lawyers have dropped out of various cases in key battleground states. And so to your point, Cenk, there are 3 states that the Trump campaign are now targeting in order to overturn the results. Clearly, Michigan is one of them. That's what we're talking about right now. But they're also focusing specifically on Milwaukee. Okay, so in Wisconsin, and they're focusing on Atlanta in Georgia.
All heavily black Democratic cities. And so they want to disenfranchise black voters. We're not that far from them saying, why don't we just bring back slavery? I mean, as long as we're breaking the law and we don't care about the Constitution and we're burning our democracy to the ground and we're saying no black people should have their votes count. I mean, why don't we just go all the way with it? And Democrats, this is the point you might want to speak up, you idiots. All that the Republicans are doing is putting this message out at 1,000 miles per hour. Yes, it's insane, but you have to counter. That's how politics works. When they scream madness from the rooftops and you don't challenge it, you go, oh, I am above it. When they go low, I go high. And you sit in your stupid basement and don't do anything. Guess what? Poll says 68% of Republicans think the election was rigged. 68% think that the election was completely fraudulent with 0 pieces of evidence. That's the sorry state that we're in. Get up and do something. There's a lot more, including Trump's illegal actions. Let's
go. So before I get to Trump's illegal actions, to your point, Cenk, today, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris held a press conference.
Finally.
And one of the questions that was asked had to do with why Biden hasn't pursued any type of legal action in response to Trump's refusal to concede. And Biden argued that it would take too long, that he would rather focus on meeting with Republican governors in order to coordinate his coronavirus response. But I really do feel like, given the new route that Trump's campaign has taken, they really need to have a robust response, a real game plan in place, and they need to stop minimizing the real threat that we have here, because we have seen Republican lawmakers enable Trump and refuse to tell the truth publicly. I'm really tired of Democratic lawmakers like Chris Coons and even Joe Biden himself telling the world, oh, don't worry, these Republicans are talking to me behind the scenes and they're saying that they know who really won and they're not worried. No. I don't care what they're saying privately, because publicly they're saying something completely different and they're refusing to acknowledge the reality of this election. And at this point, you're right, Cenk, Democrats have to do something and Joe Biden has to do something. Ignoring it doesn't mean it's gonna go away.
So they call a press conference and you think, just like I said, finally, oh my God, great. He goes, when he gets a question, apparently he called a press conference to say, no, I'm actively not going to do anything. Look, I don't know that the correct course of action is legal action by Joe Biden, but you might want to open your mouth and talk about how they're trying to steal the election. They are on the opposite side of you. They're right now trying to end democracy because they're un-American. They'd rather have power than have a democracy. You might want to make that point so that people understand what is happening. Nope. Chris Coons, oh, my Republican friends who I love so much and I constantly go to their prayer breakfasts and we hang out and talk about how much We're going to send emissaries all across the world to try to imprison and maybe even kill gay people. They tell me that secretly they know they lost, but they're just trying to end our democracy by taking away all black voters' ability to vote. Isn't that funny? Oh, it's such good. Hey, let's fist bump, everybody. Let's fist bump. Oh, such great bipartisanship. Why don't you out them? Do you have any ounce of integrity at all, Chris Coons? Oh no, but that's a private speech between me and my Republican colleague who I care so much more about than I care about you, African-American voters. They're trying to steal your vote. I don't care. My Republican colleague I care about a lot. We're both inside the club and we're both incredibly wealthy and we're great friends. So as he kids around about how they're going to end democracy and eliminate your right to vote, I won't tell you who they are. I'm on Biden's side. So the Republicans are the worst in terms of what they actually do, and the Democrats are the worst in fighting back for their voters, for everybody. It's an insult to everyone who voted for Joe Biden that he refuses to fight back against Donald Trump.
So when the two Republican board members for the Wayne County Board of Canvassers said that they wanted to rescind their vote to certify the election results, it was announced in an interesting way. And I'm reading this from the New York Times. The New York Times wrote that the announcement about the Republicans' attempt to rescind their certification votes arrived in a news release from a Virginia-based public relations firm, Proactive Communications, that has been paid millions for consulting work for Trump's campaign, and whose founder, Mark Serrano, has been a frequent television defender of the president's. Okay, so that's, I think, very relevant. But in addition to that, after the board voted unanimously to certify the election results, Donald Trump hit up the Republican board members. And that has been confirmed by Monica Palmer. That is one of the Republican board members. And she said to the Washington Post, and I quote her, "I did receive a call from President Trump late Tuesday evening after the meeting. He was checking in to make sure I was safe after hearing the threats and doxing that had occurred." So she was, okay. I'm gonna put her accusations of doxing and threats on all that aside for a second. She was asked repeatedly, did Trump pressure you in any way to rescind or try to rescind your vote to certify? And she kept denying it, but every time she denied it, you can just sense from her answers that she was getting more and more uncomfortable. And then it turns out that Donald Trump has invited Michigan state lawmakers to the White House on Friday. Republican state lawmakers. Now, why would he want to do that? Well, at this point, it's really up to the state to certify the election results for the state of Michigan. And so there is legitimate concern that Trump is going to try to influence Republican state lawmakers to play ball.
So let me explain how that works. Eventually, the states send electors to the Electoral College. And so normally in a democracy and in this country, the way that it's worked is whoever wins the state, well, their slate of electors go to the Electoral College, and that's uneventful, right? In this case, Trump is saying, why don't the Republicans in these states just send a different slate of electors? Then it'll go to Congress, and the Republicans in Congress will say, yeah, we accept Trump's slate of electors. We don't actually have to win the election at all. And now, this is not a wild theory. They actually could do that. We had Harvard professor Larry Lessig on now weeks ago to explain this. Jonathan Larson at TYT Investigates wrote a story about it from right after the election at tyt.com that you could check out. So this is a well-known strategy. Democrats go, oh, don't worry, they won't do it. What? Why wouldn't they? You're telling me Donald Trump won't try to cheat? Are you insane? Do you have eyes? Do you have ears? He's been trying to cheat in 1,000 different ways right now. It's not in the past. He's still sitting in the White House trying to steal this election. So Michigan has a Democratic governor, but Republican legislature. So he doesn't need to win the state. He just needs to get the legislature to go, yeah, we don't care who won. We don't care, and we don't even have to throw out the votes. We don't have to do anything. We just appoint a different slate of electors, and then we end democracy. And now the Republicans rule forever. So who cares about democracy as long as we have power? And
also to further reinforce your point, Cenk, the way that Michigan has been set up was already pretty undemocratic. So for instance, it's been heavily gerrymandered in favor of Republicans. So Michigan State's legislature is controlled by Republicans because of the gerrymandering. Democratic candidates actually received more votes in the 2018 election. So I bring that up because Republicans think outside the box. They will find ways to basically rig things in their favor to give themselves an advantage, and to think that they wouldn't be influenced by Donald Trump. I mean, what kind of meeting is that going to be? It's going to be some sort of closed door meeting, I'm guessing. Who knows what kind of promises Trump is going to offer to these people. And here's who I know will be there on Friday. So the Senate Majority Leader will be there, and the House Speaker from the state of Michigan will be there. And there's a little tiny bit of good news. So far, we've heard from the Michigan Senate Majority Leader. His name is Mich, and he said that Biden is the president-elect, and that an effort to award Michigan's electoral votes to Trump is not going to happen, according to the news outlet Bridge, Michigan. So that's what he said on the record. But again, he has agreed to meet with Donald Trump on Friday, and he will be there along with the Michigan House Speaker.
Yeah, well, there's two giant caveats to that. The people who are now trying to rescind their certification, they also said Biden had won. And then they're like, oh, after talking to Trump, they're like, just kidding, Trump won. We are now Trump robots. We will do exactly as dear leader tells us. We will steal your democracy away from you, and claim to be patriotic, by the way. So, and then number two, Lindsey Graham, among so many other Republicans, said, no, look, we will never nominate a Supreme Court justice in the last year before an election. You can use my words against me. He literally said that. And then when Amy Coney Barrett came up, they confirmed her a week before the election. They're like, yeah, we were lying. Who cares? Who cares? We're Republicans. We lie for a living. Why wouldn't we lie now? Yeah, I changed my mind, right? So those two, why do they even go to the White House? To do what? To do what? So what, are they going to disagree with Trump? No, he's going to bully them. They're going to be, okay, I'm so sorry, right? So now we're at real risk. We're at real risk that Republican legislators will turn around and go, we don't care. We award the election to Donald Trump, even though we know for an absolute fact he did not win it. So meanwhile, Democrats are still in their basement. Now, one last thing. So you say, oh, but Cenk, this is what the establishment always says. But Cenk, there's nothing they could do. Our poor beloved Democratic leadership. They have to be the weakest, most neutered people on the planet and hide in their basement forever. You don't understand. What could they possibly do? Well, okay, here's one thing they could do. And of course, they've done the opposite, as I'll show you. There are two federal laws that Donald Trump potentially broke by reaching out to people who are certifying the election. It is interfering with an election and voting rights. It's the two laws, same two federal laws that Lindsey Graham also might have violated in interfering with the Georgia Secretary of State. That's a fellow Republican that outed him. Those are, one of them carries a 1-year prison sentence. What the Democratic leadership could say is, look, we don't know yet whether Donald Trump has broke the law on interfering with this election. But if he has, and we are going to absolutely, positively pursue this to the end of the earth, we guarantee you that Donald Trump will sit in a prison cell for trying to steal this election and for trying to end our democracy, not on our watch. This is a democracy, people's vote counts. We're gonna fight for our voters and we're gonna fight for America. We're way more American than they are. These un-American sons of bitches will not steal this election or end this democracy. And if they try it, Lindsey Graham and Donald Trump will both go to prison. Now we're having a giant national conversation and everybody in America is talking about, should Trump go to prison? Did he break the law? Are they trying to steal the election? Are we having any of those conversations? I mean, some folks in the media say, oh, this is quizzical, oh, this is weird. Oh, they're so strange, right? Democrats say nothing. And the only people talking about stealing the election are the Republicans pretending the Democrats stole it. Oh my God, they're so bad at politics. That's why Joe Biden barely won against the racist, fascist idiot, con man, an obvious con man who's been a con man his whole life. And he could barely beat him this time and they lost to him last time. The Democratic Party is abysmal and we got to turn that ship around immediately. These guys are going to get killed in 2024 if they manage to actually take the White House in an election they actually won. Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.